One very common task you're going to have in a WordPress site is to display multiple posts at one time, a list of posts, just like this. And for that, we have a couple of very basic templates that I want to look at here. Category and archive.php. Now, here's how the template hierarchy is looking at all of this. Archive.php essentially is the grandfather template to all these other templates. So if none of these are present, then it goes to archive.php. And it's really the one that can handle any kind of multiple posts. Again, if it's not present, then you'd go to index.php. But most themes have an archive.php. Let's go and take a look at it right now. Again, very, very simple. Gets us our header, creates our content area, then it's going to do a few things here, and I'll come back to that in a moment. Then it goes and grabs the loop that's going to find all of the posts, then it closes off the content area, then goes to the sidebar and the footer. So very, very similar to other templates we've looked at. What's different here is, A, it's looking for a particular loop that's for archives, and it's doing some work prior to the loop. In this case, we want to decide how we should name this particular page. And what the 2010 theme has decided to do is check whether there's a time element involved. Is it a daily, monthly, yearly archive? If it is, give it a particular title. If it's not, just call it a blog archive and leave it at that. So a few things can be done. You could do anything in here. This is what they've chosen to do in this particular theme. Now what's interesting is, down here, this code is telling us look for a template called loop-archive. Now if we go over to our actual theme, you'll notice there is nothing called loop-archive. So the template hierarchy comes into work again and says, oh, I haven't got one of those, but I do have loop.php, so it falls back to that. And this is the loop that's being used for a lot of things, but you'll notice as I scroll down here, we're going to come across a line. If this is an archive or a search, do the following. And in fact, what it's saying is use an excerpt. Instead of the full post, only show us an excerpt. And that makes sense in an archive. You don't want to show the entire post. It could be quite long. We just want a little bit of each one. And that's what's going on here. So that's an example of how you can have a conditional within the main loop, a loop that's serving a lot of different purposes. You can have it work just for archive. If you had a lot of work you wanted to do with archive loops, then it would be a good idea to create a separate loop-archive. Alright, now why create a category.php if we've got archive.php? Well, when we look over here, we see that we're doing the same thing again. We're creating a title. But then we're doing something a little bit different than we did in archive. We're asking, is there a category description? And if there is, display it before we get to the loop. And again, we're looking for loop-category. Remember, there isn't one, so it'll just go to the regular loop. But why have this at all? Because we could actually do this entire code right here could have been put into archive.php. And this is where we get into strategizing of how to set up your templates. We could have put that all up in here as part of this area, these conditionals before the loop. And one of them could be category archive equals, and if there's a description, yes, put it in. So you could have very easily incorporated everything that's here. You didn't need a separate category.php. You could have put it all in archive.php. However, it can be handy to have this because we then might have additional conditionals that we want to put in for categories. Maybe if it's category 6, I don't want a description in there, I want something else. So I could put my conditional in here for it. Now to strategize further, of course, if I've got something peculiar to category 6, maybe I'm better off to create a category-6.php file. And that would make a lot of sense if you've got a fair bit you want to do. Maybe you want to get rid of the sidebar for category 6. Plus you want to give it some different CSS than everything else. Then it makes a lot of sense to make an actual category-6.php file. But this gives you a sense of what you can do with all these different files. And again, these are all very similar to category. If you just want to find all posts with a particular author, then you're using this particular template. Anything by date. Taxonomy is very similar to categories, but applies to custom post types if you're getting into those. So what we've looked at here applies to pretty much all these other ones as well, and you get a sense of what you can do with making things different for particular groups of posts, displaying them in different ways, creating different layouts, using the template hierarchy as well as conditionals within the templates. And we'll be getting into more details of how to do exactly that in particular situations as we're moving through the coding.